Okay, it's the roundup. We're back for another episode, and Lord knows, Kurt, it's still all about COVID. So we'll try not to focus on COVID-19. But man, it's crazy times, and there's lots coming out in the world every day now, and particularly in insurance, right? Like it's moving quick.
It's moving really fast, Pete. I mean, it goes all the way from, like we said earlier in the week, business interruption, like your interview with Cole, all the way to, the UK having, massive sewer backup claims now because people are choosing to not use toilet paper because I guess they couldn't get it, and they're flushing all sorts of other products down the toilet. So you're right, it's massive
Okay, that one I hadn't heard. That was totally news to me. That's happening right now. Oh my
going
God.
on.
So
Yeah.
yeah, brokers, people, tell your clients don't flush Lysol wipes, don't flush paper towel down the toilet, even if you cut it up into small little things. It does not break down. It's a bad idea. And most of all, don't flush your bacon grease down the drain either. That doesn't help things either.
What? You're
Oh
not
yeah.
supposed to? Oh,
No.
jeez.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
now
know.
I'm at a loss. I can't eat bacon.
At the IBAO conference, seeing the Water Brothers and these guys talking about grease buildups and sewer drains, where they went out and went down like into sewers, and they showed video footage of what it
Yeah.
looks like in sewers because of fat and grease buildup. I felt so guilty because I was like, I
Yeah.
was always of the belief you just ran hot water, you could just drain your bacon grease down your drain
The
and
hot
drain it.
water that stays hot for about 50 feet down the drain and it gets freezing cold.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah,
That's why
exactly.
I've got Rotor Rooter on speed dial.
But you're right, Pete. I mean, it's been a wild week. COVID's obviously on the top of minds of all of us. And insurance is something that we all like to, in our industry, try to figure out how it relates to the current affairs. And that's what we're talking about again today. So, what's on your mind?
Well, I think the one thing I saw it in Canadian Underwriter, and they brought up one thing this past week about the hold covered clause that insurance companies can use in this case, and maybe brokers should be asking for it too, because when times are desperate and there's problems, insurance companies can invoke a clause that allows them to extend coverage as it stands for up to 120 days on an expiring policy. Is that enough for, say, policies that are expiring in the next, say, 45 to 60 days? Large commercial accounts, we have hard markets, right? Like, it's not easy to remarket. Now, with people being scattered across people in the workforce being scattered to home, do they have the same ability to underwrite properly without all the data at their hands, even if they're using a centralized system? You got thoughts on that?
I think you're right on the money. I mean, we're all being asked as individuals and as business people to be socially responsible. We talked last week about travel insurance and the effect it had on the economy and on all of us. Here we are, as an example where the insurance industry could really come out looking like a socially responsible industry by doing something to help businesses. I mean, we know there's businesses that are going to be affected here. I heard something about a third of the restaurants that closed down will likely not reopen. There's numbers coming out like that. I mean, that's a volatile industry at best. Insurance, I mean, it hasn't really felt a huge negative effect to recessions in the past, other than potentially investment income. So why not try to be socially responsible and help business? I think that's a great idea.
But what do you think we're going to learn from this moment now when it comes to business insurance? Do you think consumers will want coverage in the event of a pandemic, like in the event of civil order to shut down that affects their business? And do you think they're going to want, do you think, sorry, let's say that again. Do you think they're going to want to pay for it?
Well, 9/11, I believe, showed that there was a need for certain products, or the desires of the consumer changed as a result of a major world event, and I think this is going to do the same. We're not sure if it's exactly, like you say, Pete, business interruption. What are the products that are going to come from this? I mean, we did the interview last week with the cyber coverage,
Oh, yeah, more cowbell. That was what,
more cowbell,
yeah.
right? And cyber coverage as a result of things that are happening uh, 10 years ago, not so big of a deal, right? Now, pandemic is a word that we're going to be using way more often. So I think, like, I hope actually that our industry does respond with things that are relevant to this day and age.
You know, you think about cyber coverage right now, and you think about the chaos in the world, particularly in medical systems. Hospitals are gigantic data centers of information, recording it, distributing it. They're making decisions based on patient data, all sorts of things. And the data that we're seeing come out on testing and stuff with COVID-19, this whole system is ripe for a cyber attack right now. You know, some devious mind out there could be really thinking we can cripple a country's economy if we can even hit them with cyber exposures right now or a cyber threat. It's a massive coverage.
And you have a lack of personnel manning those
Oh, yeah.
systems at this point to, reduce those exposures. So those same devious people, like you say, are potentially at an advantage right now to do it.
There's reason to do it. The other thing that's, I think, not being spoken of, and this is a touchy one, and you and I know it because we've all heard crazy claim stories. We've all talked to adjusters where we know that claims are being paid for things that maybe aren't right. And I wonder if the way this pandemic is shaking out, if there's going to be the dirt. I hate talking about it because it really implies that people aren't honest, but we know the world isn't an honest place. But are we going to see moral hazards come into play for people who are desperate now? Like, I think the opportunity could arise for some if things get desperate enough. I wonder if insurance companies are even thinking about this.
And it does play back on the government that we have in place, whether it be provincially, federally, saying to business owners, to homeowners, we've got your back here. We're doing our best to keep you not in a negative position to a point that you will start making a judgment that is morally wrong, right? So Let's hope that the message getting out there by the media about what is happening. I think Justin Trudeau has been live every day for the past 7 days. I think that's terrific. I think people firsthand need to hear it right from the horse's mouth that the help is going to be there to see them through this rough time. And let's hope that eliminates potentially that happening.
Absolutely. And, one of the things I think the government needs to come in, and, the central banks have slashed rates, their prime rates, right? Their overnight lending rate to nothing. I think Canada right now is 0.5%. I don't know what it is in the States, but they've fueled the economy with liquidity. And I know people who are literally refinancing mortgages right now, and they know what the prime rate is, and they're not seeing the discount back to them right now. The lenders are holding on to that spread. And that's something that's not right. Like, if the lenders aren't going to get on board with discounting rates too, which is the whole purpose of the central banks cutting rates, how is that going to help the economy in this time of need? They need to come back, stop thinking about profit and thinking about, wait a second, how much bad business do we want on the books that's going to go belly up? And where are you going to get your money from that then? It's this detachment sometimes between what our lenders want to do versus what the government wants. And someone's got to come in and close that gap and say to them, we're relying on you to keep the liquidity in the market moving. Are we going to see that trickle down to business payments, different things for mortgages on businesses, or is it just residential? How is this all going to fit together? Because that's going to play into things.
So even those businesses that are, well financed, potentially strong in their sector, do still have concerns when it comes to rent relief on a commercial level. So I'm with you, Pete. I think we're going to hear, starting in the next week, some very heavy messages coming from government. They're starting to feed them out now lightly as they're trying to warm us up to the severity of this to stop any hysteria. But, the recent articles in the last 24 hours of the fact that we're being asked to stay home and it's not a civil order. So I think we're going to start to see heavier language coming out in the near future. And I hope that same heavy language, as it comes to us as citizens, also goes to those corporations that need to be, like you say, Pete, there as government has been there.
Okay. So, hey, folks, that's your roundup. That is what we got to talk about from last week. I mean, there's so much more, but, there's the podcast message.
Events like this, like we saw in 9/11, just goes to show how important it is to have advocacy in your community by professionals like insurance brokers. Let's make COVID something of the past in the near future, let's hope. And let's make the memory be that insurers were grateful to have brokers in their corner through this process, because the words I'm hearing from people in the community is their brokers are just doing a great job. So congratulations to all those brokers out there that are doing all they can to be available and be safe and take care of their families all at the same time. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It doesn't go unnoticed, and as we say in Canada, your best insurance is an insurance broker. So use one.